Hi, everybody. It's Andy. Welcome back to Inside the Music with Andy. And today I have a very special guest. I have met him through Produce Like a Pro, and I actually got to shake his hand this last NAMM show. His name is Steve Maggiora. And Steve, thank you very much for being here today. I appreciate you coming on. Kind of want to talk about, music and your journey through, and your experiences involved with music and how you got there. So,
Cool.
why don't you start us off by start us off by where they can find your material at your songs and your Patreon page. I know you have a Patreon page, which is
Yeah. So yeah, I'm all over the internet. If you just type in my name, it should come up. But yeah, Instagram, Steve Maggiora Official, also on Patreon, Steve Maggiora Official. And then you got a bunch of tunes released on streaming platforms and also on my website, stevemaggiora.com. Got a Bandcamp page, try to put things out wherever people get their stuff.
Sweet.
So
And
yeah.
I'll have links down below in the description so you guys
Yeah.
can find all that as well too. If you're if you're not capable of typing his name in or whatever, or even saying it into your speakerphone.
Yeah.
So, anyways, so how's your day going, man? How are you today?
It's good. It's good. Had a nice night with some friends last night, grabbed some dinner, so that was good to be social. I've been just moved back down to LA in February after being up north in the San Francisco Bay Area for the last few years and on the road a ton. And so it's been nice getting back into a community of creatives and,
Awesome.
talking shop and brainstorming and doing things together. And it's been great.
Yeah, one of the things that I really enjoy is the sessions with Steve. And if y'all haven't been over to Produce Like a Pro, you need to go over there and check it out because there's a spot on their website, which I just mentioned, Sessions with Steve, and you get to go on there and you get to write a song with Steve, and
Yeah.
I love it, dude. I mean, it's it's fun. Who
It's
came up with
it's
that
been a
idea?
blast, man. I can't believe we've already done 5 of them.
Yeah, yeah.
All turned out super rad. It's just
Yeah, they are. And the cool thing about it, everybody, is that you can actually do everything live. So he gives you the chord progression, basically, right?
yeah, I mean we've been I take suggestions on tempo and key and progressions, lyrics, everything. I'm hosting and producing the session from my computer. And then in the chat, sometimes we use Muse sessions for some live video chat and DAW share. And it's just really great to be able to collaborate and we'll get kind of a framework going and then I'll
Right.
bounce that down, give it to everybody in a shared Dropbox folder, and everybody can add their elements to it. So it's been really neat, like getting people from all around the world contributing drums and bass and
Right.
vocals and guitar and everything. And then they'll upload that to that folder, and I'll produce it right into the track.
Yeah, live.
Yeah, which is pretty nuts, man.
Yeah, it is. It's funny because when I got back into the music gig, I was out for a long time. I won't bore you with the story, but we started doing everything via the internet because being married and kids and the whole thing, it was next to impossible to get everybody to go to a live session all the time.
Yeah,
And so we did everything and we were bouncing tracks back and forth. And now this is about maybe 6, 7 years ago. And to get it to where it is now, where there's no latency involved in anything, or maybe minimal latency,
yeah.
um, it's
Yeah,
amazing
I don't
what
think
we can
anybody's
do.
really cracked the code on recording from one DAW to the other.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
right.
it's getting a lot better. I used to do writing sessions during the pandemic over Zoom, and it's like that, like 2.5 second delay. It's impossible to do anything together.
Right,
Uh,
right. I
yeah,
know
but
cute.
it
Go
ended
ahead.
up presenting a nice opportunity to really take turns and listen and absorb, and then come back and try to
Right.
give notes that are will be received in the same way that they're intended. And just the communication between artists, which isn't always the easiest thing to to
No.
accomplish, you know. It's like, yeah, just do the thing, like the thing that I'm thinking of in my head that you totally can read my mind about,
Right, right. Yeah, exactly. So, but that is one cool thing, that I wanted to get out there right away because to me it was mind blowing to me to watch you work first off because
Yeah.
it takes me forever just to write, you know, a quarter of a song, so to watch you guys, everybody, and I'm just kind of sitting back watching. I did participate lyric wise,
Hmm.
but to see how fast you guys, all of you, can operate was just amazing. So that was eye opening, ear opening, and that was just fun, dude. Just fun.
Yeah, it's definitely a muscle like anything else. It's like you can't just wake up one day and be like, I'm going to go run a marathon. But but yeah, it's really been a cool creative challenge to take your ego out of it and just I like to just call placeholder on everything. It's like we don't need best, final product immediately. Like we just need something to fill the space,
Right.
and then you can go back and workshop it a little bit more. But if you keep running into a wall with, your creativity, it's impossible to get that flowing. And so just the name of the game is like speed, just, get
Yeah.
something down and then react to it, and then get something else down and react to it, and then take the suggestions from the Academy members in the chat, or over the video calls or whatever, and just
Right.
let it unfold naturally without trying to overthink it or trying to have it be perfect out the gate.
Right, right. Now you also done a challenge to yourself, if I remember correctly, recently where you tried to write 10 songs. Was it something like how many songs in an hour or something like that, or what
I
was it?
ended up doing 20 songs in about 4 hours. And it was, but the writing exercise was to set a timer on my phone for 5 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
free write. And so you start with one tune, just one idea, and just free write some lyrics and try to come up with, a form or a story outline or something. I would get like a verse and then maybe like an idea for a chorus about one general topic. And then once that 5 minutes is done, you move on to something else and you start a fresh one. And then after that 5 minutes is done, you start a fresh one. And then once you get four, you can either go back or you can start a fresh one.
That's
And it's
awesome.
just in that 5 minute increment of like, okay, now by the fourth one, I don't really remember what the first one was.
Right.
So I go back to it and then you can read through and you can make changes, you can add to it, you can embellish. And it just really gets you out of your head of that writer's block in the self-critique and self-criticism and self-consciousness of creativity.
And now
Uh,
are you including music while you're doing that, or just strictly lyric?
no, this was strictly lyrics and coming up with ideas. I mean, anytime that you're writing lyrics, there's a certain rhythm to it.
Right.
So I tried to be mindful of how many syllables I'm using and what kind of meter I'm in, and try to make something that flows with some sort of rhythm.
Right.
And then but and maybe I might have a melody to go along with it just in my head, but I'm not tracking anything. It was literally just typing in on the computer, and just going through my notepad application and just adding something else and then being like, oh, like let's go back to this one, and here's a little idea. I did start putting some music to it, to a few of them, and they've been turning out really cool
Awesome.
because um, there's just an inherent, like, the way that you would read words has a rhythm to it.
Right.
So if you're looking to be like, oh, like what's this melody? How should this go? It's like just read it out loud. There's your rhythm.
Right.
If it's poetic and rhymes and has, some sort of meter, whether it's, pentameter or what, like it's gonna be that's going to inform what you can do melodically with it as well.
Right.
There's natural rises and falls and when you're talking and everything, so that, if you're open to it, that's something that you can work
Right.
into a melody and everything. And there's some really cool tunes that are coming out of that one session that was really quite eye-opening. And like I wrote some really dark stuff, I wrote some really lovely stuff.
That was my
You
next
know,
question. Now, I have a tendency to pigeonhole myself in a category. Well, a couple categories. One's partying because of what I know,
yeah.
and the other one's, based upon love music or however you want to say it. Um, is that something you try to avoid? Is to or do you just let it whatever comes out comes out?
I try to let whatever comes
Yeah.
out.
All right.
When I start writing something, sometimes it ends up completely different than
Right.
I started. There's, a lot of times when I'm writing, I'll just be riffing melody and singing gibberish over the top, and then kind of listen back to it and be like, oh, like I liked ending on that vowel there. So let's find a word with that vowel, and then kind of mad-libbing it and filling in the just in the interest of working fast. It's like what is my subconscious trying to say
Right.
without, actually forming the words. So if I go like like it's okay, like so something something now, I love it and how,
Right.
and kind of fill in backwards, and then there ends up just being like your voice kind of comes through that and how you choose to flesh it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's some, I tend to write a lot of songs about love and acceptance of
Yeah.
situations or people or things that I'm going through, things that friends are going through. I try to pull from what I know as much as possible. And I'd end up writing a lot of songs that are kind of become mantras for myself, like things that I need to hear,
Right. Right.
depending on what I'm going through that week,
Right. Well,
and that's
that's
a
me.
beautiful kind of therapeutic, cathartic thing,
That's me. So just for an example of that, I just
Yeah.
had our what I call our four-legged son just passed away a couple weeks ago.
Oh, I'm
So
so
for
sorry.
yeah, that's I thank you. But for my therapy is that I had to write something, you know, to get it off my chest, so to speak,
Yeah.
and that helped me now. Uh, so yeah, I understand what you're talking about, the therapy,
Yeah.
so to say, and it's I stay in the area that I know. I tried to write a political song a couple times, and no, I always throw those away because it's not one, it's something I don't want to, venture myself into, really, to be
Mm.
honest with you, and everything sounds corny as well when I write something like that, and it doesn't sound natural to me. So,
Yeah.
you know, I completely hear where you're coming from.
I write a ton of corny stuff too, and it's and but it's as long as you have something down, you can always refine it.
Right,
There's
right,
some really cool stuff comes out of it, when you allow yourself to say things that might not be phrased in a way that you're used to. Like one of the sessions with Steve Live co-writes that we did, I called it Just for Fun. I think it was the
yeah,
February one.
hmm,
And the like main part of the chorus talked about like give me the bullet from your
right,
gun,
right, right,
and we'd had this really wonderful discourse in the chat just about like, well, are we really writing about guns or what does that represent and what's a metaphor for? And I was kind of on the fence of like, well, maybe we should change that. Um, just in how the
right,
world is and
right,
everything. But it
right,
was the context of it was that you're asking somebody to shoot you straight.
right, exactly, right,
And so I loved the imagery of it, and it was raw and visceral and elicited a response from people,
yeah,
and dug that. It's like, oh, like what does that mean to you? Like, what do you think we're talking about? Like, how does it engage the listener? And
right.
we got a really beautiful discussion about that, and ended up keeping the line. And
Yeah, I was actually involved with that one, and that
yeah,
was a lot of I remember that discussion being made, and I'm glad you kept it because I thought it was the perfect
yeah.
lyric for it.
straight to the point, and it's, not what you want to hear, and that's sometimes what you need to
Right.
say.
Need to hear.
You know? You can't placate everybody.
Right,
So
right. Exactly right. Yep, exactly right. Um, so what do you have stored up for us in the future for Steve Maggiora? What do we got coming? What do we
so
got to look forward to?
coming up with sessions with Steve, I got a bunch of stuff planned for that and a lot of tunes for my upcoming record that comes out on April 15th on streaming. I haven't made CDs or physical merch for it yet. This is my first like full album release in a while. It's my own productions and stuff. I released a record in 2023. There was a collab record with an incredible guitarist, John Philbrick. And that came out over the like July 2023, but we
Hmm.
didn't, it was a streaming only release. And and then this summer, I had found myself with some extra time on my hands and ended up putting together a 12 song, 48-minute record with a bunch of friends just working remote and it's fantastic. I'm super proud of it, and that hits the streaming platforms on the 15th of April, and I've done a lot of mix breakdowns for it. I'm going to be giving those multi-tracks to the Academy to mix and utilize and dive into and see where my crazy brain goes with these things. Like they're massive, man, and it's really fun. They're all super funky and soulful and
Yeah.
some really amazing performances on there. Drummers on the record, Jake Hayden, that played with Missing Persons and is currently with Dorothy and Nick Carter from the Backstreet Boys. There's also Frank Reina that's played with Colby Calais and Chuck Negron. Blair Cinta is on one of the tracks that's done a lot
Oh,
with the Academy,
sure.
and just total badass drummer. And Jules Rodriguez that played with Beth Hart, and he's on there too. Bass players, it's Warren Merle from The Wreck, and Adam Dipp, Haley Reinhart, and I think he's playing with Rome right now too. And then Morgan Mallory's on one of them. On the one cover on the record is my buddy Morgan's song, and it's one of my favorite tunes and closes the record out. And I'm really pumped for everybody to dive into that one. I'm doing keys. Bob Fritzma's on keys. We got Adrian Olmos, who's done some stuff with Alice Cooper on saxophone, 5 and 4 horns, Jason Parfait and Ian Smith on horns. Michael Garding got his horns
Oh,
on
really?
track. It was really
Awesome.
cool.
Yeah.
And then like guitar players, there's Henry Schneekluth from Robert John and the Wreck and King Tree and the Earth Mothers, and Mark Lettieri from Snarky Puppies featured on a couple tracks. Um, who else? Johnny Gomez
Awesome.
and yeah, Bob Fritzman is on Hammond for most of it. And then it's just, yeah, just crazy, wonderful group of people that lent their time and their talents for this, this undertaking. And it's been
Well,
really, really fun to put together. Mike Fossenkemper with Turtle Tone Mastering mastered it and did a phenomenal job. And I mixed the whole thing. So it
oh
was
wow.
it was
Yeah.
fun to really dive in and, face my own fears with self-consciousness with
Mixing.
releasing my own mixes and stuff. But
Right, right. Man, that's amazing.
yeah. So
I
all
can't.
those tunes, Get Good, there's one tune that came out on the last sessions with Steve.
Hmm.
And then this coming week, it's Here All the Time,
Hmm.
which actually had Brian Smith on drums, who also co-wrote one of the title track, Unburdened. And that comes out on the 31st on ahead of the album on Sessions with Steve. And yeah, it's just, it's so fun. So much fun.
I love your genre music. I think that for your voice, as what I read in one of the things I was, before we came on, I was, kind of going over some of your stuff via
Yeah.
the internet, and it said the silky smooth voice, smoky,
Yeah.
the smoky
Oh, nice.
voice.
Yeah.
And you do. You have that, that. I was thinking about it earlier this morning. Um, oh man, I can't think. Now I'm drawing a blank on his name. Blues. Uh, uh, dang it, I'm drawing a blank on his name, but
Hmm.
I'm Cochran, Johnny Cochran. That's who, Johnny. Uh, shoot. Anyway, I'm sorry. I completely lost my train of thought with that guy's name now.
Oh,
Joe
good.
Cocker. Joe Cocker.
Joe
That's who it
Cocker.
is. Yeah,
I was like,
yeah,
Johnny Cochran, isn't that,
yeah. No, no, not
isn't that
Johnny.
OJ's lawyer?
He might have
Like,
said it.
I didn't know he put an album out. Like, gotta check that out.
Yeah. So, but no, that's who you kind of remind me of. You kind of have that,
Thanks, man.
um,
That's high praise. Thank you.
yeah. And I think I've a few other Academy members that said the same thing in regards to that as well too. Now, I do really like when you jump into the country side of things too.
Yeah,
I think you fit well in that category as well
thank
too.
you. I feel
Um,
a bit self-conscious there because I don't have the drawl. Like
you-
it's more I want it to be country, but it just comes off more folk Americana, you know.
well, it
But
it works. It works for me. And there's a few newer artists now that don't really have that, Southern draw ending,
yeah,
as much as it used to be. But I think you fit well in that category too. As a matter of
thank
fact,
you.
I just mixed one of your songs, um, finished mixing it, and it was bring no, dang it again. Oh my gosh, let me look it up here real quick.
Yeah.
So some of the things I want to kind of give everybody a little lesson about you as well too is, um, as you were saying here, Steve is a songwriter. He's written numerous songs. You can find all the songs over and every platform you can look for.
Mm.
But I suggest going to his Patreon page, signing up. That way, there you don't miss out anything new that he has coming out. Um, he's kind of touched base a little bit on some things that he's done, but he's played with some very established musicians and bands as
Mm.
well. One being Toto, and I'm sure you got some stories from those guys. And Steve Lukather, you've actually played with him on his solo by him. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
He had me. I wrote a track that was featured on his what was it, 2023 album, solo
Hmm.
album, Bridges.
Yeah, and then you also play with Rick Springfield, which I find that's a
Yeah,
fun one to
I
talk
didn't
about.
that was through Warren. I ended up doing that remote. But yeah, Rick did like an album with an orchestra
That's right.
of some of his like greatest hits and stuff, and Warren was producing it, and so he got me in on some arrangement stuff and some keys and some synths and string things, and
How
just being
fun.
a general idea guy for. I think I only worked on like one or two tracks or something off that record, but
Right.
it was really fun to come across my desk. I'm like, oh damn, like, oh, let's go.
being the old guy I am, just turned 58 yesterday. I remember him being on
Oh, happy
General.
birthday,
Well,
man!
thank you. Uh,
Fantastic.
yeah, remember him being on Rick's, on General Hospital back in the
Yeah,
day. So it's kind of fun to have that nostalgic, you know, uh, reference back to somebody like him.
yeah.
And then the other, your Robert John and the Wreck
Mhm.
time with them. And you mentioned the guitarist that you have him on your one of your new songs.
Yeah, yeah. Henry's on a few, Warren's on a few. We had tracked that before my time in that band ended. The songs are kind of from the last like 4.5, 5 years. And I worked with the Wreck from their inception up until summer 2022.
Yeah, and some great music. Again, that genre where you fit. That's your home. Uh,
Yeah, it was fun for the formula for that band when I was in it was I just tried to write as many country songs as I could. And then you throw in some three-part harmony and some slide guitar and piano and turn up the tempo a little bit and become Southern rock. It's
right.
a lot of
Yeah.
fun to like figure out the different inner workings of genre and how things piece together and how one little thing can totally change.
Right. I love his name is Henry. Is that correct?
Yeah,
I love his style of play.
he's
Um,
phenomenal.
but yeah,
Absolutely. beast player.
And you can always tell how good somebody is just by the ease, how
Hmm.
easy it makes it look. And
Yeah,
that to me, he's one of those players that just makes everything almost boring, but it's not because he's so smooth with everything he does.
yeah.
That's my opinion anyway. So, but you got to do a lot of touring around the world as well, hanging out with these folks as well too, didn't you?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Lots of good times and weird and interesting places. It's been
I'm sure. I'm sure. Um, so anyway, that's a little bit of history with Steve, and I'm sure he had probably some more. Can you kind of tell us where you actually began your journey? How did you know this is what you wanted to do? At what age?
I caught the bug from my dad. My dad's a career musician. He's got an incredible dance band that focuses on like German polkas and Italian polkas and waltzes, and they play dance music from everywhere. I mean, they'll do, Take Me Home Country Roads and back when the Macarena was hip, they were doing the Macarena and stuff. They have been at it since I think like 1971,
Oh my gosh.
and just the premier like
It's
oompa band in the Bay Area. Yeah.
is it all the original members still, or did they move
No,
on?
they had some lineup change, but the bass player, who's my godfather, and my dad have been in it since the beginning. And
Oh my
now,
gosh.
my dad's college buddy is in there now. He came in like, I mean, 20 years ago at this point, and their keyboard player and horn player is just phenomenal. And he joined in the early 90s, I think, as well. So. Yeah, but I caught the bug from them. I grew up going to his gigs and, first time on stage singing the bare necessities with my dad's band at, this German club in Milpitas and just fantastic memories. And just seeing the camaraderie between him and his bandmates, his brothers,
Hmm.
it's really inspiring to me. The community of you know, just wonderful people from their fans and, the families that pass through and the kids that I grew up with going to all these things. And,
That's
um,
awesome.
that's, I caught the bug from that pretty darn quick. So by the time I started like writing music and like taking piano lessons, my piano teacher, Carol DeMonte, brilliant and wonderful woman, started having me start composing from like almost my first lesson. And her way of teaching me music theory was to the give me ownership over my education with it. So it would be like, hey, like, your assignment for let's write a monthly composition and notate it however it makes sense to you, use a tape recorder, and it'll record and play back when it was on
Yeah.
an
Hmm.
actual machine,
Yeah.
and notate it out however it makes sense for you. And then as the weeks would go on, it's like, okay, well, here's the grand staff, this is what a treble clef is, this is what a quarter note is, and started teaching it from that way while I still just wanted to sit and
Right.
play, you know. And it was a brilliant way to teach. I've used it with students over the years, and it's just
So-
always works a lot better than being like, no, this is how you do it. So, yeah, again, in high school, I was composing a ton. I wrote my first musical when I was 16 with a buddy of mine,
Oh my gosh.
and my senior year, we turned that into a film. That's what got me a scholarship to go to Chapman down here in Orange County. And then I was music composition, film production, double major there. Dropped out after 3 semesters to work for a performing arts group, producing all the music and doing videography for them. And then was with them touring and traveling for years. And then when I left the group the first time, I went to the LA recording school to like actually start working with more than just a laptop. Like when I started doing tracks for them, it was in my Korg Triton Pro X keyboard's built-in sequencer. I didn't know what quantization was. Like had no idea how to do anything except for just, use
Right.
that little tempo knob to change tempo and track some stuff in and get it done pretty quick. Got a VS 1824 Roland digital recorder. Used that for a bit, and then GarageBand came out, yeah, like with their jam packs. You used to have to buy on CD, and then that just changed the game for me. Like being able to have these orchestral sounds that didn't come from a keyboard and having all these AU instruments, to be able to pull from that sounded better
Good.
than
Right.
what I had in the box, and did that for a long time, and then finally made the switch to Logic. Like I was in Pro Tools for a bit, hated it, always had issues with it, and it was terrible for creativity. For some, like I just
Right.
did not enjoy the MIDI
The flow.
functionality in
Right.
Pro Tools. And then Logic 8 came out and got, that big box set that was, you know,
hmm
like nine or 10 DVDs full of content and stuff, and got a better computer and started working in Logic. And that's been great because since they moved to the App Store, it's just $200, like flat rate, and you get all the updates and stuff. So
That's awesome.
it's my DAW of choice. And yeah, started through some friends in the group. Robert was opening up for that band. And then started playing with Robert through after being introduced through them. Yeah, we started that band, and then our drummer interned for Warren at Swing House. And then that's how we got connected with Warren. And then in like 2013, Warren hit me up about doing some keyboard stuff for him. And that was the start of a long and beautiful friendship and collaborative process. And we did a lot of cool stuff together.
Yeah, you have. That's for sure. Now, you did, if I remember right, talking you down at the NAMM show, you said you actually taught music as well in high
Yeah.
school. Is that right? At high school level?
Yeah, I worked out of I worked as an accompanist for a long time.
hmm
And one of the schools that I was working at, well, through the Young Americans Performing Arts Group, it was all teaching tours that we would do. So I would be producing all the music for their shows, recording all the backing tracks that were performed to, and then we'd go out and do workshops, like 2 or 3 day workshops all over the world with kids to try to keep music systems alive in the school systems and stuff. So we would go in, work with anywhere between like 80 and 300 kids for a couple days, teach them an hour-long show, and then we would do the first act. The whole community would come together. We'd have a performance of it, and the teachers would do the first act, like 50-minute show, and then the second 50 minutes, 60 minutes was the kids were the stars of it, which
Awesome.
was awesome. And it was all this, lots of medleys and stuff, and covering everything from Broadway to rock and roll to classical to pop, top 40, opera, and songs and dances and choir stuff and everything. And when I was getting out of the group, I started got hired as an accompanist by a friend of mine that was from that group, and she was finishing up her master's. And so she was gone like 2 out of the 3 classes I had a week with them, and so I just ended up teaching, and then moved back home for a bit, and then when I came back down, started working at Crossroads School in Santa Monica. Again, hired as an accompanist, but really working with that and musical directing their summer productions, musicals and stuff. And got to go out work for the University of Chicago's one of their charter high schools, teaching. They didn't have a full-time music teacher, so I would come in and just do like 4 days, teach a whole fall's worth of like choir curriculum in 4 days for their show, and just do some intensives and stuff. And got to work out of some colleges in Nebraska doing intensives and clinics and everything. Worked at OSHA, Orange County High School for the Arts, for a bit,
Wow.
and
Wow.
yeah, it
So
was
so if we were to use a metaphor, say like karate, I'd be considered a white belt because my theory knowledge is
mm,
very limited. What would you consider yourself on would you be like a four black belt
I
HP?
don't know because I dropped out of school and then I started teaching in schools within like 6 months without a degree. So it's, you know, I'm still learning every day with stuff, and it's kind of like the academia side of things has never really been my strong suit. One of the things that I learned really quickly, like I took AP Music Theory in high school, and then when I got to college, I missed the placement test for to get into Music Theory 3 and eventually form an analysis and stuff because I was there on a vocal scholarship, and the choir was doing Beethoven's Ninth at the Hollywood Bowl, and so I had to be there for those rehearsals. And the dean of music at the time like scheduled that for when the placement tests were, and I couldn't end up doing a placement test, so I went back to Music Theory 1, but I was tutoring form and analysis students like my freshman year, which was interesting. So but one of the things with music theory is you learn the rules to break them. It's like, so
What a
it's
great
good
analogy that
knowledge
is.
to know so that you can communicate well with other musicians. But
Right,
most people that are doing music professionally did not learn it from a book.
right,
They learned it by spending time on their instrument and listening to
right.
records and diving in and that kind of stuff. So, I mean, my music theory background, I'm still at like, probably an 18-year-old's level for that. But I know enough to get around and enough to be able to explain it to people if it does come up to, that I
Right,
need to be like, oh yeah, I need to score this out. Like I do most of my charting by hand on staff paper. It's tedious, but it ingrains the material in your head
right,
more.
right,
And
right.
for me, it's a easier way to get off book quicker.
Yeah. But
Um,
I love that analogy. You learn it to break it. That's that
well, honestly, like that was
you know
when I was doing composition classes. It's like parallel fifths are bad, and like you have to have, in counterpoint and stuff, you have to have things moving in a certain direction to be like correct.
right,
But my theory professor was like, "Well, that's really cool. Like, why did you write it that way?" And you have to be like able to explain yourself. Like, well, not normally like parallel fifths are, just come off dissonant, and like they're not always in the structure of the chord and stuff. So I did it to build tension and to have something, feel a little off to elicit a response from the listener. Then they're like, oh, yes, blah, blah, blah. And it's all that, like, know the rules so that you can break them and explain why you broke them. And things, all music is tension and release and you know either melody or harmony. So it's
right,
the more that you know what should be done, the more you can deviate from that to elicit a response from the listener or to get creative out of the box a little bit so it doesn't just sound like you're repeating the same 12 notes or four chords. Like you
right,
can
right,
you can write a four-chord song that's got the same progression as everything on the radio, but if
right,
you structure your melody different, it's like it's going to sound completely different and stand out.
right. And which is the amazing thing about music in
Yeah.
general is that there's, so many songs that use the chords D, G,
Yeah.
C, and A, and all of them sound completely different, or so
Yeah.
many of them, I should say, thousands of them, probably,
Yeah.
is a good analogy on that. So, but I'm going to steal that analogy that you
Oh yeah.
gave me there. I appreciate that.
Know the rules to break them.
Know the rules
All,
to break them.
all of my, younger piano students loved that one. It's like, well,
That's you need to
yeah.
put that on a t-shirt, dude. That'd be a great one for your merch.
Yeah.
You know, quotes from Steve Maggiora. So, but well, why don't you tell everybody once again before we end this talking with you, and let them all know once again where you can find your stuff and your release dates once again on your
Yeah.
new record coming out.
Cool.
I appreciate that. People
Well, you can
curious
find
about.
me online. Just type in my name and see what comes up. SteveMaggiora.com is a good hub for all of that. Also, my Instagram, Instagram.com/Steve Maggiora official, two G's Iora. Yeah, find me on Produce Like a Pro, sessions with Steve. If you're interested in music production and songwriting and how all of that goes together. It's a wonderful community of people, and we're doing some really fun stuff there. So check that out. I also have a Patreon page for those of you that don't do music for a living or recording arts and stuff. And there you can just enjoy tunes released every Friday. And I've got this new record, Unburdened, dropping on streaming platforms and my website on April 15th, 3 weeks from today. So very
Sweet.
excited about that. And there's some pre-save links in my bio on Instagram. And all those tunes will be releasing on Sessions with Steve as well. So if you dig them and want to see how the sausage was made, you can jump in there in the Academy and download it and check
Music
out all my,
sausage.
crazy track stacks and stuff and isolated, everything. So
Yeah, awesome, man. And again, the links will all be down below so you guys can find them. And I have to say, thank you so much, brother, for coming on here today
oh,
and
of
doing
course,
this.
man. Thanks for having me.
It's been a minute since I did an interview, and to have you as my first one coming back to it, it's an honor. So,
Well, this was
honestly.
great, man. This is a good hang.
So, anyways, with that said, I'm going to sign off, let you get on to your day.
Cool.
And thank y'all for watching Inside the Music. My guest today was, once again, Steve Maggiora. Go look him up. He's got some awesome music. I guarantee you're going to love it. So, Steve, adios, brother.
Thank you
Y'all
very
take
much,
care.
man. Great to
Bye.
see you, Andy.